Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode, the first episode for 2021 of the GolfRules Questions podcast. It's a pleasure to be back with you, back engaging and entertaining you with the wonderful world of golf rules that we all play and abide by, all of us regular golfers. And if you are new to golf, as many people are coming out of 2020, this might be your place to learn a little bit more about the rules of golf in a fun, informative, and frequent way, as we are joined by the Golf Rules guru himself, the one and only Blakey. How are you, sir? Welcome back to 2021. This is your podcast, so welcome back to your own podcast, son.
Thanks, Roscoe. Yeah, no, looking forward to 2021 and hoping that we can get out, do some more travelling outside of Melbourne, outside of Victoria. I did see that Qantas is allowing international travel, or allowing you to book for international travel from July this year onwards. So they're pretty optimistic, pretty confident. Let's hope that it goes that way, that COVID can be looked after and everyone can get back to what their normal lives were.
Well, the first thing that's got to be ticked off the travel agenda is we hit a milestone last year, not so much in the podcast relation, but was sort of related. We did say that if your YouTube site got to 3,000 YouTube subscribers, that we would take the podcast somewhat on the road, which means we'd go and have a game of golf together at a country course in Victoria somewhere. So we've got to do a little bit of that touring first before we get to worry about that international travel. We might need a segment sponsor or something like that to, pay for an extra bit of baggage allowance or something before we go on the international stuff. But maybe what's the next milestone? What is the next goal in your growing media emporium, Blakey?
Well, I see it 5,000. So it was 5,000 YouTube, and then we'd get to Tassie. And I did see on one of your posts, one of your stories on Instagram through My Love of Golf, that someone else was asking you to do a Barnbougle King Island trip. So I'm sure we could lock that in together.
Okay, well, we might have to do that. Well, who knows when you get to 5,000? No, we're not just talking about this to, help trump up your subscribers. Oh, it does help. And if you do listen to this, please jump across to the YouTube Golf Rules Questions YouTube site. But it is a great place to be informed about the current goings on in the world of golf, whether it's tour, whether it's just some funny stuff, but anything that's related to, that you can find that's related to helping inform people about the golf rules, you'll find over there. And as I say, it's an easy way to, get some information. There's thousands of videos there, and just the fact that, they get downloaded many hundreds of thousands of times, and there's 3,000 odd subscribers means that, people do value that resource. So I'm sure that you're going to keep that up. Your video editing skills and the team around you of the video editors that you work with keep producing better and better videos. So yeah, jump over there and look at that and help us get to Barnbougle.
There's usually a question posted as well. So I do a Golf Rules question of the week on this podcast, and then I also do one or two questions on YouTube where you can click and vote on a poll option. So, the videos are there, but also there is other engagement tools, such as a Golf Rules question on YouTube as well.
Now, in terms of this podcast, as we continue on for 2021, we haven't really planned any format changes as such, but that will happen as we continue to evolve and try and get better and improve our podcastery. That's mastery of the podcastery. If anyone's wondering if that's a new word, but
is that an IVOR, or you just made one up?
No, I made one up. You can't be called an IVOR if you make it up. But we will keep refining, and we will keep improving. We'll have some guests as plans afoot. Don't worry about that. But one of the things that we will continue is the Golf Rules question of the week, and as Blakey just mentioned, that you can see that played out, basically from this video that we do on the Zoom on the YouTube. Now, the last episode, which we released, I think maybe Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, had some comedy gold. It was our first unprompted, impromptu attempt at comedic gold in unrehearsed Golf Rules question of the week. Let's cover back off what that golf rules question was. The reason for the comedy is I did a silly voice, which I've been waiting to do on one of the 3 podcasts that I've done that I'm part of. I've been waiting to do a silly voice, and it just came out. So what was the question from last podcast that we need to answer today, Blakey?
So the question was, if Roscoe's playing a hole and he hits it over onto an adjoining or adjacent fairway, he doesn't see it come to rest, but he knows he's hit it over there, and it's he knows whereabouts it'll be. But then he gets over there and he can't find it. And then someone yells out from the green on that hole after Roscoe's been searching for 3 minutes and says,
I can't repeat the comedy gold, but he says, "G'day, mate. Is this your Pro V1? I may have picked it up back there. I'm really sorry. I think it's yours."
And Roscoe then confirms that is his ball. What is the procedure from there? So Roscoe now knows that someone else picked his ball up that was, and the guy said, it was in the middle of the fairway. What is the procedure? And the procedure is, Roscoe, that you have lost your ball. Your only option is to go back to your last place played, your previous place played, which is back to the teeing area of that hole. So a bit unfortunate, and that's why we encourage people not to pick up random golf balls unless they are absolutely certain that this ball has been abandoned. But certainly in the middle of another fairway with a group just hit off a tee, don't pick up that ball.
We've talked about it before in terms of one of the things that the do's and don'ts of playing golf in one of the previous episodes. But club golf, it's less likely that someone else is going to pick up a ball if they're playing on a different fairway. They're going to see a ball there, and even usually if they can't see anyone directly around, it's if it's a stroke day, you probably just leave it there. Sometimes they might pick it up, but it's less likely that people are going to pick it up. I think in the growing world of social golf and in the public courses that are absolutely packed, it's probably a more frequent occurrence. So if you are a social golfer listening to the Golf Rules Questions podcast for some enlightenment on golf rules, if you get a ball over on the next fairway and it's a Pro V1 or whatever range of balls, restriction, top flight, whatever, just leave it there. As tempting as it is to pocket someone else's Pro V1, it's usually coming, especially in a public golf course environment, it's usually coming from 4 left or 4 right. Someone's hit the big block cut or the big pull hook, not warmed up or whatever. Just leave it there and just let it go, because it's going to be someone else's ball, and you don't want to get into an argument, and also you don't want to affect someone else's score. They may be playing against their mates for a round of drinks. You don't want to influence that match. That's big stakes, high stakes, and a lot of fun. So just leave the balls there.
Yeah, I actually had this happen to me a couple of years ago up at Tokemall, which may be one of the courses that we go and visit on our Victorian trip. But
it's actually New South Wales, isn't it?
Yes, but possibly
not visiting there at the moment.
Plus, it is technically New South Wales over the border, but I'd consider it one of the courses of the Murray if we did a Murray trip. And I was playing down one hole. It was on there's a west and east course, isn't it? Anyway, I think it was on the west course, and playing down one hole. I actually was using a Pro V1 with practice stamped on the side, and lo and behold, someone took my ball, and they were about, 80 meters from me on the green. And I said, did you guys see a Pro V1? Oh yeah, the one stamped with practice. Yeah, that was my ball, mate. Oh, sorry about that.
So my question there is, Blakey, how do you end up with a Pro V1 stamp with practice on it?
Well, Roscoe, I was out playing a golf course, and I found a Pro V1 with practice stamped on it.
Okay.
Pretty much knowing full well that it came from the professional tournament that had been playing there the week before or 2 weeks before.
Now, I'll interrupt, but in golf, if you talk to guys that have played on tours, you know, obviously they get their practice balls and warm-up balls and range balls all provided for them. And if that is that particular brand of ball, you know, stamp practice on it to prevent people pocketing them. But, you know, there's a lot of stories that you've heard over the years of, you don't want to be that guy that pockets a bundle of the sponsor's product into your bag with practice stamped on it. But that's how they essentially end up in circulation, that they get secreted from tournaments and, you know, put into people's bags and then played. There may be more to that story. I don't think the brands sell them, but there you go. I thought you would have been at one of your tournaments there, and you just walked up to the range and was checking out in the rules officiating and pocketed a few practice sponsors products.
I certainly wouldn't have pocketed it from around that practice range area. But if I found it anywhere else on the golf course, certainly it would have gone into my bag. I think I've got a touch of Scottish in me there.
As long as it was post-tournament and it wasn't in-round, there you go.
Now, I'm pretty sure. And for anyone wanting to know if practice stamped on their ball is considered non-conforming, no, it's considered a conforming ball and you are permitted to play with it. It's just, it would be the same as if you had Roscoe stamped on your ball. So practice, Roscoe, Blakey, golf rules questions, your local course, it is treated as the same. It's just a stamping with, it's just a mark with of whatever someone wants it to be.
Well, in some other non-relevant and somewhat useless information, but from where I sit and what I do, I know that the stamping of golf balls, the customization of golf in general, but the customization of golf balls is a growing area. You know, I see people coming in with all sorts of different photos and requests for, you know, can this be printed on the golf ball? They'll have funny photos of the person who the golf balls are for gifts, also logos and corporate stuff. That's a no-brainer. But you can basically put, you know, get anything sort of digitally stamped on golf balls this at the moment. If you need any of that, let me know. I can point you in the right direction. But yeah, you've got some balls there, Blakey. You might have to give some more away at some stage. Some golf rules questions, stamped TaylorMades, if I can drop the name of TaylorMades, because that's what ball they're on. So you might have to give some away at some stage. Come up with a crafty competition. Someone could win some GRQ Podcast golf balls.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I'll figure out some cool marketing campaign as I have. You know, that's the thing that I'm here for.
Now, the meat and potatoes of this podcast, it's not going to be over officious with too much information, but there has been some adjustments, some tweaks, some fine tuning from your colleagues at the Royal and Ancient during the break. They kept working at Christmas, and they've pumped out a couple of, I don't know, how do you frame it up? Changes, amendments, adjustments?
Clarifications.
Clarifications is the word that we're looking for. Clarifications to a handful of rules, and we are just going to cover those off because you never know when this situation might require a clarification. So, Blakey, lead us off. What have your colleagues at the RNA up there at St Andrews and the USGA over in the US, and g'day to all the US listeners. I see there's a few more US listeners pop up. Thanks for that. Listen to a couple of Aussies and sort of Aussies, Scottish Aussies and Kiwi Aussies. Prattle on. What's changed?
Well, we've certainly prattled on this morning. So let's just have a little starter introduction. So the rules came out at the start of 1 January 2019, but there were already clarifications put out, released even before the rules came out, because, you know, when they actually finalized what the rules were, that was about March 2018 or May 2018. And then, of course, people found some little errors along the way since then. So some clarifications came out before the rules had even come out or been officially released and played to. So then from there, you know, they were getting feedback, oh, this is a little bit stupid, you should reword it this way, rewrite it this way, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, okay, so let's put out clarifications every 3 months if needed. So, you know, April 2019, July 2019, October 2019, January 2020, blah, blah, blah. You get the picture. Now, we haven't had any new clarifications for a while, but we did get some clarifications, just a couple of small ones, on 1 January 2021. One of them was for Rule 16.1C2, which is the penalty relief option when your ball when you have interference with an abnormal course condition in a bunker. Now, number one is you can take free relief, but number two is you can take penalty relief. And the wording doesn't actually state, it does give you this hint that, okay, you're taking penalty relief, you got to go back, you're wanting to go back outside the bunker because you've got interference with an abnormal course condition. It's a one-stroke penalty. You know, under 19.3, it's normally a two-stroke penalty. Under 16.1C2, it's a one-stroke penalty, but it has to be outside the bunker, but it doesn't actually state that. It says you can drop in any part of the course. So this clarification comes in and states the reference point and the relief area must be outside the bunker. So although it's not something that people would have really, you know, if you're going outside the bunker for a one-stroke penalty, you're not thinking, oh, then I'll drop my ball in the bunker. Maybe they thought, oh, I'll drop it outside the bunker, and then for some unknown reason they've mistakenly dropped it in the bunker, looked at the rule and gone, oh, well, this is actually correct. I have to play it from within the bunker for a one-shot penalty. So that's why the clarification has popped out. So not a real big one there, but just as I said, it's a clarification.
Okay, so the next clarification refers to local rules, which a committee can enforce as part of their procedures. And it's something that's popped up on tour before, or it's relevant to something that's popped up on tour. So take us through what that clarification is, Blakey.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because it did sort of happen in 2019 on the European tour, in that Rule 11.1, if you hit, that's the accidental deflection or stopping of a golf ball in motion, and so you basically play it as it lies, except when the ball was played from the putting green. So when the ball was played from the putting green and it hits an animal or a movable obstruction or a person, then you cancel the stroke and you replace and replay the ball. Now, they've decided to create a local rule. So, sorry, the incident on the European Tour was with Paul Casey. He held a putt maybe about 12 foot. The high definition camera picked up that it touched a bug on the way, you know, the smallest bug. Not that Paul Casey noticed it. It was deemed that it wasn't, couldn't be seen by the naked eye. So Paul wasn't penalised for not replacing and replaying this stroke. And so what they're saying is we'll actually bring in a local rule now that removes that actual requirement to cancel the stroke and replace and replay it.
So what sort of example would that be? So what you're saying now is if Paul Casey hit that putt, which I think most people may have seen during along the journey, if he had seen that with his eyes, that bug, that his ball rolled over, the ball went in the hole. But if he had seen that, he would have had to have replay it.
Yeah, whether the ball was holed or not, he would have had to
replay it.
Cancel the stroke and replay it. Yeah.
Now, a committee can bring in a local rule that says if the situation occurs where your ball hits a moving, let's just call it a bug, on the green, you don't have to replay that shot.
That's correct. If the local rule has been adopted, and funnily enough, I was just looking at the RNA website, and they haven't put it on their website yet. D7, but basically, if it hits a person, they can bring in this local rule that if it hits a person or an animal, such as so not a dog, if it hits an animal such as an insect, what they term as animals under the loose impediment definition, worms, bugs, insects type thing, that you just keep playing. And whether it's hold or not, you just keep playing. And that is up to the committee in charge of the competition. So they can either have it one way or the other. The player can't have it one way or the other, whether it's they choose whether to play on because it's hold or it's not hold. It's all about whether it's in the rules as cancel or not cancel.
So I'm trying to think of a scenario where a match committee would bring that rule in. Do you think that if there's an issue with bugs on the green and they just have to keep playing, and that they might have that local rule? Or I can't imagine a time when that local rule would become in effect.
Well, I would think a few of these local rules, not all of them, but a few of these local rules make more sense than the actual rules. And I would hazard a guess that this will become a rule of golf in 2 years' time.
Right. Okay.
And the reason is it a common occurrence? Probably not. Where a course has, you just don't want a situation where a high definition camera, which, we're talking professional stuff. This is very unlikely in an amateur competition, but we're saying that we see a ball hit an ant and you have to cancel that stroke. I mean, did the ant really have any effect on the ball? And even if it did, does it, did it really affect the playing of the game? You're outside. There's lots of things that can affect your ball in motion. An ant, is part of playing a game that plays outside.
Okay. Well, there you go. There is a local rule that, as you've described, committees will probably bring into effect, but more so, it's something that will change and evolve. And in the next iteration of the rules of golf, whenever that is, 2 years' time, if that's what you're saying, but I'm not sure if that's exactly defined. You would know that, not me. That you might see that rule change. Very good. Now, what else? We've got some modified rules for players with disabilities. Now, this topic is, players with disabilities and all abilities. You've seen the growth of the sport for everyone, not just you and I, but for everyone that's included in playing golf. And it's a very accommodating game. It's a very inviting game. I remember when I first joined Craigie Law Golf Club in East Lothian in Scotland. Right there in the reception area, there is a couple of golf designed mobility scooters, and they are a hub for mobility oriented golf. They make a very big thing about it, but they also represent that brand of whatever the brand was of the mobility scooters there. And that to me was a time when I sort of started to realize that the rules of golf cater for people with all abilities. I've played with my mate Mike Brown. He lost his leg in a military accident, plays professionally, plays on able-bodied tours and tour designed for, it's the European Disabled Golfers Association, EDGAR. I know a couple of guys in that situation. So there are some modifications to rules, and there's been a change for Rule 3. Blakey, you can take over from there. I've just sort of said that I love the fact that golf is a game that's inclusive for everyone. And here we've got some rules that have been sort of redefined just to the benefit of certain situations.
Yeah, so you can find the modified rules the modified rules for players with disabilities, obviously in the back of the official guide. It's on the website. And, they've just taken a pragmatic view of how golfers play the game, and then golfers with a disability play the game depending on their disability, what disability they're living with. If you're in a mobility scooter, it can be quite hard to get into a penalty area and get into a bunker. And it can be quite hard, and how you get down to the ball and how you replace the ball. So they've just expanded the definition of replace under that Rule 2 and under Rule 3. And then they've also modified the penalty under Rule 19.3b, which is an unplayable ball in a bunker taken back out on a line outside for a 2-stroke penalty. They've modified that so if it's not possible for the the physical limitations make it quite restrictive to do so, to play a shot, then their only option really is to go back on a line outside. They've modified it so the penalty would only be 1 shot. And then they've also provided a local rule that a committee can adopt for similar situations for those players in a bunker. So, just as we have clarifications for the able-bodied players, we also have clarifications for players with disabilities. So it just makes it a little bit easier. And as you said, you've seen some, you play with some players with disabilities, and you've also seen some clubs that really take on their role as in promoting that kind of, those people to come and play at their courses and their competitions. We've seen that on the European Tour. We started seeing it at the Australian Open, actually.
Yeah.
The Australian Open a couple of years ago, 2017. That was the first time they had. It was at the Lakes. The first time they actually had an All-Australian Abilities Open. I think I've got that wrong.
All Abilities Australian Open. Yeah. Australian.
And so that was at the Lakes, and there's about 12 players, I think, from memory. And it was fantastic to see it. And there's some really good golfers in there. It's not like their skill level was.
Oh no! These guys are flat out professional golfers. That they play very, very, very well. As I mentioned, I met Mike Brown from the UK at one of those events at the Australian last year, and full professional golfer. Like proper pro, and he's had some great experiences. He came down and played at the President's Cup the week after that. They had a match.
Oh, they did too. That's right.
And what an experience for him. He still talks about that experience of playing and hanging out in the same hotel with Tiger and all of those guys. Anyway, that's great coverage of those modifications to the rules, Blakey. I'm sure that if anyone has any questions, they can fire them at you either on Anchor, or they can fire them at you on email.
Or YouTube.
They can sign up to your website where you get the expanding and growing and more frequent newsletter, because that is one of your commitments for 2021, which I'll hold you to, Blakey. More newsletters, more email, more information in the written form from you, sir. So, have we covered all of that off, Blakey?
Yeah, we have. That's our episode for episode 1 of season 2.
Couple of housekeeping. So Background Bingo, Andrew Miller, thanks once again for your continued support on that. So you obviously listen to the podcast, jump straight over to the YouTube, check out the backgrounds. Last week's background for me was, yes, you got it, the National Golf Course down here in Cape Schanck in Victoria. You didn't get the hole or the course. I actually can't remember what the hole was, to be fair. I can't remember when I took the photo, but it's the Gunnamatta course, the new Tom Doak course down there. I think it might have been like the 15th or thereabouts, the green complex looking back down to one of the closing holes, a little short par 4. But the Gunnamatta course is a wonderful new course down there. They changed the Ocean course, the Peter Thompson course, and got Tom Doak in and redesigned that course. And it is a very fun and playable golf course, typical Tom Doak, wide off the fairways, and then asked a lot of questions of you going into the green. I was lucky enough to play down there last year in October before they opened it up. And that was that one. And your one, Blakey, you didn't get that one. You didn't get. No one got that one. No,
no, that was the. Oh, I can't even remember. It was the Hokitika golf course on the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand.
So is that New Zealand's famous Mount Cook in the background there?
Yes, I'm going to say yes, it is. I can't even remember. I think there's
the couple and the big mountain in the back.
Yeah, I think it was Mount Cook and Mount Tasman right beside each other. From what I remember, it's a pretty stunning place to play. You can get some wild weather on the west coast there, but it's a great. I would actually probably, apart from the sand flies, there's a ton of sand flies. I'd probably retire and live there. It's a gorgeous place to live.
The old Hokitika GC. No, had not heard of the Hokitika GC, Blakey. But once again, when we take the GolfRules Questions podcast road trip to NZ,
I think that's 10. Is that 10,000 subscribers?
We might have to. Well, you're paying, so you tell me. But we'll definitely go to Hokitika GC. Now, this week's background bingo. Here's a couple of Andrew Miller. This is directed at you. If you can get this, you are a more astute. You're already a more astute, golf course picture spy, and I don't know what to even refer to it. But if you can get this one, and I've thrown I'll give you one hit. That if you have a look at the gents in there, that's a bit of a smoky. That's all I'm giving you.
Wow, if he gets that off that tip, he's a genius. So you got to give him something else than that, don't you?
Well, if you look at the tartan on the gents, they're wearing some bonnets and they've got a tartan hat on, and they may look like they're playing in a Junesy type links course of Scotland, maybe Ireland. Well, they're not.
Right. Well, and my one is across the Dutch. It's in Victoria, and obviously, if I put the word lakes in there, because you can see that's some lakes just very close to the beach. Hopefully you'll get that one, Andrew, or anyone else that gives it a try.
We're not giving out any more prizes until someone else other than Andrew joins into the background bingo.
It's the Andrew Miller bingo.
If you want us to keep going with background bingo, it keeps us entertained, filing through photos and picking up something. If you want us to keep going, we will keep going. If you want us to stop, we'll stop. We'll change it with something else. But one thing that we probably won't stop with is the GRQOTW. That is the Golf Rules question of the week. We might you'll have to find some music for the Golf Rules question of the week, Blakey. But this week's question, I will read it.
Go for it.
Is it permissible for a player and an opponent to consider a hole halved after the player hits a wrong ball? Good question.
You happy with that one?
Yeah, well, it's not a scenario that I've really had to deal with. Is it permissible for a player and an opponent to consider a hole halved after the player hits a wrong ball?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tricky one, but we'll see how we go.
Well, everyone, ponder that question and please send us it through all of those means that you can get in contact with us by. We look forward to bringing you more Golf Rules questions, information during the year. Hopefully we can continue on a weekly basis. If there's that many Golf Rules imbroglios out there, we will continue on a weekly basis. Blakey, anything else from you for the start of this year?
One just real quick one. You've been picked up on this one a couple of times. Veil for when someone is that like for when someone passes away and it's like, oh yeah, my thoughts are with the family type thing.
Yeah.
And you like to say valet, and I think that's a bit tongue in cheek, which is fine. So I let it go. But you've been picked up a couple of times.
No, I say veil, but the actual term is valet.
Oh, sorry, the other way around. Now, for me,
lazy use of the language, and Mr. Robson, Ivor, not Ivor Robson, valet Ivor Robson, but Ivor, who is, this segment is named partially after. There's Ivor, the listener, and then there's Ivor Robson, the great orator of golf.
who I don't think has passed away, has he?
You're right, exactly right. Sorry, I'm right.
So you've chucked it a parlay for
Ivor, he's one of the legends of the game. Sorry, he just retired from calling golfers to the tee.
The person that did pass away, the orator.
Yeah, it was Peter Ellis.
It was amazing. If anyone doesn't know who Peter Ellis is or wants to see a good video of Peter Ellis, go on and search Peter Ellis PGA acceptance speech or something like that. He is like a born to tell stories. He's excellent. So go on YouTube and after you subscribe to Golf Rules Questions, go on there and listen to Peter Ellis. It was brilliant.
Very humbly on his behalf into the PGA Hall of Fame. But just to finish off on the Varley, Ivor did correctly point out that it's from a Latin derivative, and the V would be traditionally pronounced as a W, so a Wale. But in the Vatican, they somewhat just use the more anglicized V sound, so they say Vale.
Otherwise, they'd have to say Vatican.
I hope we don't have to talk about too many Vales this year, Blakey, but nonetheless, we've been picked up, a minute pickup, but if you want to pick us up on anything, language-wise, tonality-wise, we'll call that an Ivor, and we'll be happy to be called on that. So thank you for anyone that wants to contribute to that part as well.
And just one for me, because I didn't actually know that this was how you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say asterisk, not asterix. Asterix is the character from Asterix and Obelisk. Asterisk is the little thing that you stick above a letter or word if it has a reference point down the bottom. Asterisk.
Okay.
I had no idea.
Well, there's the sort of detail of the listeners that we are dealing with here. That's why everything is called, Blakey, and you've been called well and truly on that. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the first episode. We promise that we'll just keep in touch. And as I say, check us all out. Check Blakey out. He's the one behind the driving the show. I'll just push the red button. Blakey, see you next week.
See you, mate. See you guys.